Hello, hello, hello. It's Davie P here for the VMN, and today we're actually going to be branching out. So rather than our usual podcast and or our music video reaction, the VMN, we're about a lot more than just that. We just haven't had the time to branch out just yet. So this is actually the first of a series of different avenues we'll be going down. So we're going to be speaking about the upcoming UFC 263, which is scheduled for Saturday, the 12th of June. And the main event on that will be Israel Adesanya versus Marvin Vettori. Part 2. They had a match a few years ago, both pretty new in the UFC at the time, which was a pretty good match. But we'll get more into that in a second. Well, interestingly enough, in their last match, just to be prepared again, because I'd watched it when it happened, but that was a while ago, and there's been so many matches since then. So I rewatched the match again yesterday, as if I'm watching it from fresh new eyes, and watching it from start to finish, it was very much one-sided in the sense that Adesanya was very dominant, had complete control of the match. He was not in any trouble throughout the entire 3 rounds. Even when he was on the ground, when Vettori actually got him down on, and had ground control, he didn't do any damage whatsoever. It was very lackluster. Like he didn't know, he got him down, but he didn't know what to really do. To the point that, it was, Herb Dean actually stood them back up. Even when he had Adesanya against the cage, he wasn't doing anything. And Herb Dean broke them up, brought them back to the center of the octagon for them to fight again. But yeah, it was, again, you don't want to take too much stock into that because, they were still fairly new in their UFC journey. So you can't really say, because it played out that way, it's going to go this way. But looking at how it went, it was a clear dominant win by Adesanya. The only shocking thing was the scorecard that one judge actually gave 29-28 to Vettori, which he did not win. There was no way you could say he won 2 of any of that 3 rounds to begin with, because there was not a round where he had, Adesanya damaged, or you could say, oh, that was a close one. No, it was pretty comfortable. Weaknesses, it's difficult to say what someone's weaknesses are because at the end of the day, it's called mixed martial arts for a reason, as opposed to Adesanya's background to begin with was kickboxing. But when he transitioned from kickboxing to MMA, which MMA also involves grappling, wrestling, submission, everything involved, not just striking, then obviously he's coming from a kickboxing background, his strength would have been, on his feet, standing up or whatever. But in mixed martial arts, obviously you have to then, if you didn't, you have to start learning to wrestle, do some Brazilian jiu-jitsu, things like that, because it's mixed martial arts. So if someone gets you on the ground and you've got no ground defense or offense, then you are in a lot of trouble. And that was clear. Even though he was still newish in their first match, you could see that his strength was not on the ground. But at the same time, for someone who was still pretty amateur at that, in terms of his UFC journey and doing that, he didn't sustain any damage whatsoever. So obviously since then he would have known and recognized that, as commentators would be saying during the match, oh, we tend to see a weakness now in Adesanya. It's the fact that he's not good on the ground, X, Y, Z. But the fact is, once you know that, if I'm listening to it as a casual, then guarantee coaches for other fighters who would be opponents for Adesanya would have been watching and analyzing that fight to say, he's not good on the ground. So we're going to work on getting him on the ground, do as much damage as we can, trying to get control of the fight. So I think since then he's actually improved on the ground. Or the usual, which is stand-ups. He's got amazing stand-ups. He's got great, as they'd say, great range control. He knows how to control, when to get in close, where exactly to stand when he's fighting, So he's playing by his rule, not by his opponents. And that's what tends to frustrate his opponents because he's not falling into the trap what they're trying to set. So, for instance, like, you may hit your opponent and they may hit you back and, the adrenaline is flowing and they get riled up and they're like, yeah, come on, have a slugfest with me. And he's not going to do it because you might do it. It doesn't necessarily mean the person's more stronger than you, but you could get hit by a stray shot and get knocked out. It's like they say, sometimes it's not the shot that you see that puts you down, it's the one that you can see coming that will knock you out. So he knows not to get himself in anything like that. He knows how to control his emotion and still put on a great performance, because his last title fight, at welterweight against, Diego Costa, that was, their exchange had gotten pretty personal and it was quite heated and intense. Yet still, when he fought, he was very composed and was very much in control. Even when, Costa was trying to draw him out and, get him to play his game, he didn't. He stayed on target, listened to his coaches. The game plan that was set out, he followed it, from A to Z, put on a flawless performance, knocked Costa out clean, and then he was able to showboat and, did what he wanted to do at the end of the fight, which was pretty funny as well. So, yeah. Vettori's strengths, I'd say he's got decent stand-up. He hasn't got killer knockout blows, because going by his last fight, when he was standing up against Kevin Holland, aka Big Mouth, he was getting, literally that is his nickname, Big Mouth. That's what Dana White, referred to him as, and he was getting rocked. He got rocked by Holland, and Holland is skinnier than Adesanya. Holland isn't as big, body-wise as Adesanya, but he rocked him, and he literally won because his ground game was a lot better than Kevin Holland's ground game. So his ground game has improved since he last fought Adesanya, but not improved enough where he was completely dominant, where he did like major damage, because he didn't stop Holland. He won again on points. But his ground game has improved. His stand-up, I wouldn't say has improved drastically, because he still looks very much flat-footed and very regimented, as in the sense like, whatever his coaches, whatever they're taught him, like discipline, that's it. He just stays on that. He doesn't know how to set traps like the Adesanyas, who will do little things, and when you look, which is really good, like I recommend you check it out. Daniel Cormier, the former light heavyweight and heavyweight champion, he does this breakdown of fights. Recently started doing it, where he'll analyze a fighter, like he'll look at Adesanya, for instance, and you say, okay, look what Adesanya did, and it plays it in slow motion, and he starts breaking down all the little tricks and what he was doing, things that to the ordinary eyes you wouldn't see it, but to a trained professional like himself, he's able to see it, and it's amazing to watch because he actually breaks it down. And when you look at it, even as a casual, you start looking at, oh wow, you're understanding what he's saying, and you're seeing what he's actually saying. And when I look at someone like a Vettori, I've never seen any of his matches where you could say, oh, you know what? Yes, he was setting this trap or that trap or whatever. No, he doesn't have that fighter's IQ, freestyle ability to do certain things like that. He's more stick to a game plan and that's it. But if someone throws something what he's not expecting, he doesn't really know how to deal with it. And he tends to get frustrated very easily. Like when he fought Adesanya, there was a few, eye pokes, which is accidental based on the gloves, what everyone always complains about the UFC gloves, because they're saying you can't really bend your fingers. because of how the gloves are made. So it accidentally will cause eye pokes if you're standing up and you're trying to parry or doing whatever. And there was a few accidental that was resolved, but then there was an incident when he got hit in the eye, and he was like complaining to the ref, like, "Oh no, he poked me in the eye." When they played it back, it was a clean, fair elbow strike to the eye, but he got hit so hard, he thought he got poked in the eye, and he started complaining. And when you see someone complain, you know what that means? Usually you're in their head, so they're out of their game plan and their comfort zone. So it literally just means that they get frustrated easily, which will then make them act a bit reckless. And that will lead to you getting defeated. So he needs to, I hope he's improved on that, because he wasn't in that much of a situation with Holland where you could get to judge on that to say, well, yeah, he has improved or he hasn't. He still got rocked when he was standing up. So his only chance possibly is, taking the fight to the mat and hopefully get a finish. But if he couldn't finish Holland, who technically is not very good on the mat, because one of Holland's fight, he was actually asking Habib, who was sitting at ringside at the octagon side watching, he was asking Habib between rounds for wrestling advice during the match. That's why they call him Big Mouth, because he would say all kinds of stuff. He was literally asking for advice. So if he wasn't able to finish that guy on the ground, who was asking for advice from someone who wasn't even fighting, who wasn't even his coach, then how will he be able to do that? So unless he's made some major improvements in that time, and that was only a few months ago, then, it's only going to go one way. But again, it's UFC and it's fighting. Nothing is as it seems in the fight game, so you can't predict these things. Based on my view of who's had the better caliber of opponents, which also plays a lot in how you perform, Adesanya has had stronger opponents. He's had quick matches, fights where he's finished the fights quick. He's also had fights where he's gone the full 25 minutes. So stamina is not an issue for him. He'll be able to, go the full 25 minutes if need be. Vettori does not have good stamina. I mean, in their last fight, he was literally gasping for air and breathing through his mouth after the first round. And that was only a 3-round, 15-minute fight. So unless he's drastically improved his cardio, if it goes past 2 rounds, he's going to be in problems. So on that aspect and that analysis, I'm going to go with Adesanya. For Davison Figueiredo, I will say he will win against Moreno. I feel that. He's good. He's on fire right now. So I think he'll win. That won't go the distance. I think that will be a knockout. 2nd round knockout possibly. For Nate Diaz against Leon Edwards, if it goes past 3 rounds, then Leon Edwards is in problems. His only chance is to get the fight done before 3 rounds, because we all know that the Diaz brothers, they tend to start pretty slow. They need the first 2 rounds to warm up, and then by the 3rd and 4th round, that's when he's in his stride. So that's a tricky one. It's tricky because Leon is a good striker and he's got good wrestling, but so does Nate. It also depends on cuts, because the Diaz brothers tend to cut very easily. And his last fight, which was against Masvidal, was stopped because of the cut against his eye. Not because he couldn't continue, but because the cut was so severe. So that will also play a factor. But I'll go with my gut feeling. I feel maybe Edwards will get this one. He's more hungry. And Bilal Muhammad, I think he will come through in his fight. So that's my prediction. Well, goodbye guys and girls, folks out there. I hope you enjoy, and look out for a surprise coming on the next Vaya video. So from Davie LP out here, Stay safe and enjoy and tune in.